Hello, listeners. I'm SB.
And I'm Alise.
And we're here to talk about the Sexy Brutale.
Hey, SB?
Yeah.
That's what your name stands for, right?
Yeah.
You're the Sexy Brutale?
It's certainly appropriate. I am both of those things.
Yeah.
So, hey, do you want to talk about this video game, though?
I guess, alright.
We can sit here and rain adoration on me for, I would say, up to another 20 minutes. But
okay.
I prefer to just go to the video game.
Okay, we'll do the adoration
We'll do
after.
the adoration after. We'll turn off the mic and then we'll... Don't swat at my notebook. I saw that.
You were making noise with it.
Yeah, I am. Well, I have multiple pages of notes, as do you. There's going to be
just
some noise.
Fiddling with it.
So I've been doing final thoughts videos at the end of my series lately. It was something somebody asked for, but I didn't want to just do me talking about the mechanics of the game for 10 minutes here because I feel like this game has earned a little bit more than that. So it has been a little while now. It's been a couple of weeks since I wrapped the series. Don't listen to this if you're not already familiar with the game. This whole thing is spoilers.
Major spoilers.
This whole thing. Okay. What did you think of the game before we start doing deep dive stuff on the narrative? Like, what did you think of this game as a game?
As a game, okay. Actually, I really enjoyed certain aspects of it. So I like these kind of adventure games.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't find the puzzles to be too difficult, generally, which it's still okay. They were at least challenging enough that it gave me something to work on. But I really liked the aesthetic of the game a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So overall, I liked the game, I guess I should say. But I really, really liked the aesthetic. I love the music. I love the setting. All this stuff about like the setting of the casino and the playing cards, and I really liked like kind of the dark aesthetic of it. Like the guys running around basically gas masks and stuff. Like it's really, really cool. And the time mechanic. And I like the sneaking around part. You know, it's fun in a way just to be kind of peering in through keyholes and listening through walls instead of, you know, just going wherever you want. The fact that you have to sneak around and you can only get bits of information because of that is really fun. So I enjoyed that stuff. What did you think? I mean, obviously you liked it.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. This might be my game of the year. I liked Prey a lot. I liked Wolfenstein a lot. Both games that are very similar to this one. Obviously, you can really see my...
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Very much the same.
You didn't tip enough on the first... I was like, wait a minute, does she actually think these games are similar?
I was holding back that yawn. I don't know, I keep yawning, so I apologize for that. But yeah, sorry, no. Yeah, they're obviously not the same at all.
But yeah, I think this might have overtaken it. The gameplay, I think, is honestly kind of crummy here. It's not very responsive, right? Did you ever have a problem, like, when you wanted to stop eavesdropping, you had to hit the button 2 or 3 times before it would read? I had that happen a lot.
Actually, I more had a problem with, like, especially when waking up, when the day started over.
It takes a really long time for you to get control.
That animation, I kept clicking, click, like, get up.
That animation is, like, 15 seconds long. Yeah. It does not need to be.
Well, and a lot of the animations I did think were too long. Like, if you try to enter an area that's... Spoilers again, so if you haven't finished the game, come on. I'm just saying, I don't want to ruin it for anyone, but anywhere where there was a ghost, before you knew there was a ghost there, you know, he would do his little animation like, oh, I can't go there, and he'd shake his head and like put his hands up, and I'm like, yeah, I got it, you know?
Yeah, when you get blocked out of an area by a ghost, that animation is also quite long. Yeah. So like, I think that almost everything about the gameplay was kind of a bummer, but I liked the narrative and the way the narrative is tied into the mechanics so much that this honestly still is probably my game of the year. This is so good.
Yeah, it is. Better. So if it had better mechanics, maybe, and I would say a little bit harder puzzles, that would make it perfect.
Yeah. Okay. So I suppose we can take a little detour here. What do you think about difficulty in games as... What do you think about judging the quality of a game by its difficulty? I guess is maybe the way I want to come at this idea. Because there's a lot of people who do kind of like give a game a little bit of the side eye, look down their nose at it a little bit if it's too easy. But simultaneously, you know, I've expressed to you my frustration a number of times this year with people who had, I think, unfair things to say about Wolfenstein based on the fact that they couldn't play it very well.
I don't think it's fair. I think it's easy to do that, to kind of look down on a game if you think it's too easy. I don't think it's, when I really think about it, is necessarily fair. Because there's other aspects of the game that are important. And if this game is too difficult, no one's going to make it through it.
Yeah.
And we've discussed before that we know of people who never made it through the game. We were disappointed that it wasn't on some Game of the Year list and stuff because some people just never finished it.
Yeah, this is, I guess, not directly about the game, but I did, it came up on Giant Bomb's Game of the Year lists, a couple of their
I wasn't going to call them out specifically.
A couple of their different lists. And then it kind of got brushed off without much more consideration. But when they did talk about it, it was clear that nobody had finished the game. Yeah. And listen, I understand. I'm not gonna try to say that a game reviewer should finish every game that they want to talk about, or every game that comes out in a year. Although I do think, in the case of the Sexy Brutale, it's not that long. They probably could have. But in the case of a game like this, there are people who say that you should not review a game unless you have finished it. And games like this are why, right?
Yeah.
Because the Sexy Brutale appears to be one thing up to about 85% of the way through, and then reveals itself to be a different thing.
Yeah.
And so the only game reviewer that I know of who actually finished the game is Justin McElroy.
Yeah.
And it was at the top of his list.
Yeah.
And I think that probably people who finished this game have a very different opinion of it than people who got about 50% of the way through.
Do you think it's because of the difficulty? So I guess my point is, do you think if it had been more difficult, it would have been way too difficult for people?
I think that in general, this game is quite easy, but it's because it's an adventure game. Like, there's a thing about adventure games, right? Where it's not... The difficulty curve of an adventure game almost cannot be set as tightly as, say, like, the difficulty curve of a precision platformer or something.
Yeah.
The End is Nigh, for example. To use an example of a precision platformer that came out recently. The End is Nigh is tuned very, very tightly. Like, there's a progression of difficulty. But the difficulty in an adventure game doesn't come from understanding the mechanics almost ever. It's almost always your ability to read someone else's mind to a certain extent. And you can put hints in the world, but, like, if your brain just approaches the situation differently than the designer of the puzzle's brain, you're going to have trouble.
Yeah.
So some puzzles are going to be very easy for some people, and some puzzles are going to be very different, and it's not always going to be the same ones. So I guess I'm not gonna say that I thought the game was easy or not easy, because I think that that's not really terribly meaningful here. I found most of the puzzles to be quite straightforward, but there's video evidence of me getting weirdly stuck on the Orem and Thanos puzzle because I just thought about it a different way than the puzzle designer did. It sucks that anyone would get stuck, because I think what happened, like, I heard Alex Navarro at Giant Bomb said that he was enjoying the game, and then he got stuck on a puzzle and he walked away from it, and he just didn't come back because he has a lot of other stuff to do.
So that is part of the risk of making it too difficult to solve, is people aren't going to make it through it.
Yeah, people will hit a snag and walk away.
And it also has to do with the person playing it too, right? Like, I happen to really like these types of games, so if I hit a puzzle that I can't solve, it makes me want to solve it more. Now, sometimes I have to walk away from it for a while to stop, like, obsessing over it and to, like, see things from a different perspective. But I will probably come back to it, whereas maybe, Alex Navarro is not really that into this stuff. I don't know.
Well, he's busy.
And he's busy, yeah.
There are a lot of video games this year, and I think it's a real bummer that anybody gets lost along the way of, like, a game like this. But I don't know that you can say, like, you could make it easier or more difficult, right? Like, aside from having someone in the game world explicitly spell out the answer to you if you take too long, how would you adjust the difficulty of a puzzle? It's not like a game where you could, like, in a platformer, you could draw that jump 2 pixels closer together. You can push it a little further. You don't have sort of an incremental mechanical knob to turn with a puzzle game. So
Also, I just want to be clear. I know they can't really make it. I know they can't really do that. I'm just saying, if I had a magic wand and I could wave it and change it for my preferences, I would have it be a little more difficult for me, which is impossible for them to do. I'm not saying that they should have necessarily, for the greater audience, have made it more difficult.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I almost think that when you're making a game like this, you should intentionally make it very easy.
Okay.
Because as much as I like a good puzzle, and as much as I want a game to be difficult and to require me to really wrestle with it a bit, the meat of this game is the narrative and the way the mechanics play into the narrative, and it almost would benefit from just being a straight interactive narrative that doesn't have puzzle-solving elements, I think. So you and I have talked about this before, or rather, I have talked about this while you listened patiently before. But I think one of the great strengths of video game style narrative is that it allows for an examination of a moment from multiple perspectives much more easily than other media. And it allows you to sort of shape your understanding in linear narrative, which is not to say narrative that progresses, like linear media, I suppose I mean, because I'm including in this all film and all books, basically. Okay. So I don't want people to get confused that, like, I'm talking about traditional storytelling, but not like about linear, Tarantino, who tells his stories out of order a lot. In media where the story is told to you in a particular way, and that is the way you must receive it, which is your books and movies and TV and stuff, your understanding is necessarily very close to the shape that the author created, right? Yes. It will always be the case that every viewer brings their own lens, and people will see things that other people don't see. But by and large, you're getting the information that was given to you. You're being directed by somebody. You're following the path they laid out, no matter what it is. In a video game, you can miss parts of the narrative in a way that you can't in a movie. In a video game, you may experience scenes in a different order. You may not experience the same scenes as another person who plays that game. They might have chosen a different path or something. And there's a lot of cool stuff that can be done and by and large is not done with narrative exploration in an interactive space. And I think that's what's cool about this game is, to a certain extent, like, I watched you play a significant portion of the beginning of the game. Yes. And you came to a bunch of information in a different order than I did. You were way more interested in Thanos and Aurum at the beginning of the game. I didn't really experience almost any of their stuff until it was time to save them. Yeah. But you followed Aurum around at the beginning of the game before you had even saved Clay and Trinity. And, like, you came to the information in a different order, which gives you a different understanding, which even the events that we did experience that were the same are colored differently by the information that we had at the time. Yeah. You found the Room of Old Habits much earlier than I did. Yeah. You found it while you were still playing the game, which means that you were able to view some of the things that happened in a different light, knowing that... how clear was it to you that the Room of Old Habits was about Lucas's gambling addiction? Not as clear as it should have been. Okay. Certainly. I mean, I kind of had that idea, but also, I also thought it could maybe be one of the robots. So I wasn't sure. Okay, sure. Yeah, because you found it before it was clear to you that the whole thing was basically a fantasy. Yeah. See, that's really cool. I wish I had experienced that version of the story. I kind of thought it was a robot because... Which makes the I will kill you thing, like, really strange in a different way. Like, it was unsettling when I saw it. But I really freaked me out. But I also understood what it was. Yeah. Yeah, man, that's cool. That's a cooler way to have it. Yeah. Totally different just by when we found the same thing. Video games are good. They are. I like interactive narrative, man. This is a great way to tell a story. I forgot what we were talking about. I don't know. Let's talk more specifically about this game. How about that? Okay, sure. So, game of the year. Best game of all time? Easily. Really? No. I was going to say, I'm not ready to make any claims of any sort. I was trying to prompt you to move forward. Oh, you could probably do it a different way. So, what element of the story did you find most interesting? We have a lot of... I took a lot of notes, you took a lot of notes. We have a lot of things to talk about here. But do you want to start with the gambling addiction stuff, I guess?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. So I thought it was strange at the end of the game. By the end of the game, you have encountered some narrative elements that make it clearer that there's an issue of gambling addiction,
yes.
right? But having not discovered the Room of Old Habits and not really knowing what the cards were about,
mm-hmm.
I thought it was very strange how sort of like, if you miss all that stuff, his gambling addiction is mentioned very obliquely.
Yes. In
a couple of like brochure entries.
Mm-hmm.
And you get there's a set of books in the library, or in the basement rather. Not the big crazy part of the basement, but the little bit of the basement that you get into early in the game. Where you can find out that the books are being cooked effectively, and that the casino is hemorrhaging money.
Yeah.
But the whole through line of the money and the gambling addiction kind of snuck up on me out of nowhere. All of a sudden he's like, I must burn down the entire casino and mansion. It sort of came out of nowhere. And now going back to it, it's clear to me that the whole plan is an extension of his gambling addiction. He talks to quote unquote Lafcadio about the fact that he hopes that Lafcadio would be proud of him because he was able to give up the gambling.
Yeah.
But that this plan is risky and it thrills him in the same way. And I should not have, but did, go to the Steam user forums to see what people were saying. In this game, remarkably calm and civil. Not always the case.
Often not the case. On the internet in general.
But I saw some people saying that they thought the plot was dumb because it's stupid. His plan is stupid. There must have been better ways. I find that criticism a lot. Like people are not okay with characters doing things that aren't the best or smartest thing, or even
that's life.
The thing that person thinks is the best or smartest thing, and about half the time is actually a worse
If you
idea.
did a really smart thing, then it would be less likely that there'd be a tragedy, and then you wouldn't have the story. I mean, people in life...
I think that's a pretty...
People don't always do...
That's a pretty weird constructionist way of looking at it.
Oh, hold on.
Okay, all right, go.
The other thing is, he's acting kind of irrationally, right? Like, I think he's finding himself in a position where his girlfriend, wife, are they married? I don't know if they're married.
I believe they're married.
Is pregnant.
Yeah.
And he doesn't have money. And he's got this addiction. I mean, this new stage of his life and his love for his unborn child and for this woman, that kind of thing will make you do things that are maybe not so smart, necessarily.
Yeah, that's where I was going, was that, like, it makes sense for the character to have done a thing that's not great. Basically where I was going is I am frustrated by that criticism that a character behaved in the not greatest way. I think that criticism is structurally invalid.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Characters should behave in a way that makes sense for their character, not in the way that is smartest.
Yes. So I wanted to bring up a thing about this. So I actually didn't think of the burning down the casino as like an extension of his gambling addiction.
I think that the fact that he chose a plan that is so dangerous and so risky is an extension of the gambling addiction.
So I think that's interesting. I want to know what you think about this as like a theme, right? There's a lot of references to like I guess the contrast, or it shows kind of next to each other, like goodness, heaven, and badness, or hell, right? Okay. There's the heaven and hell rooms, right? Yeah. That Eleanor was supposed to paint both of them. She only painted the hell room. There's a room where there's 2 bookshelves, and one is filled with books of scripture, and the other one's just filled with books about demonology, right next to each other. And I kind of thought this was like him choosing the good side, which is his family life free of addiction, hopefully. You know, that's probably what he thinks is going to happen with his wife and child, and turning away from and pretty much destroying the bad side, right?
Sure, yeah.
But he's punished for it, which I think is interesting. Like, it didn't go right. You know, he's trying to do what's, like, what he sees as the right thing, go towards the good side.
I don't know if I would agree.
Apart.
I don't know if I would agree that he is punished for that. It's not like an act of God is responsible for the death. He's incompetent. He does a bad job. He's punished for doing a bad job, but I don't think he's punished for making the decision.
Well, I guess it doesn't really matter what the punishment is for, but I just think it's interesting that oftentimes in media we see, and I could be wrong about this, but I think we often see a character that decides to like go towards good. You know, at the end of the story, they decide they're going to do the right thing, and everything turns out hooray.
Yeah.
But this character tries to turn towards good, and his whole life is destroyed, basically.
Did you read the brochure thoroughly? Did you see all the stuff?
Well, I realized right before we started recording that I need the invitations to get the information about the people, and I only have Clay Rockbridge's invitation.
With the rest of the brochure?
I've read everything else, yeah.
Okay. The brochure page that talks about the moment where you see the whole casino in flames.
Yeah.
Mentions this idea that you're talking about. It talks about on the other side of the struggle there must be green fields and success, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. That was in there. Well, I just think it's interesting. It's certainly more true to life. You know, in media we often have these constructs. We have these constructs in storytelling that are unrealistic, that don't match real life. And a lot of people in real life believe that life should be like that, right? Like, if you're a good person, good things will come to you, and bad people will be punished by the universe or karma or whatever, and things will work out. But that's not how the world works.
Yeah, see, that's why I thought it was important to make it clear that he is not punished for making the choice, because he's not being punished by the universe or karma.
I didn't mean it like that. I just used the wrong words. But yeah, I really appreciate that about this. I think we need more things like this.
I think that this morality in video games is very often, this is another thing that I've talked to you at great length about while you patiently listened. Morality in video games is often so juvenile. It's so black and white. Like, remember, like BioShock, right? Yeah. The great moral choice, the incredible moral depth of, will you rescue this little girl or will you crack her open and drink her spinal fluid?
That's a tough one.
There's no moral judgment in the Sexy Brutale in that way. Like, there's no, I don't think there's any element of like a good man, bad. Lucas sucks. Lucas is bad. He's a bad person. He's a dickhead. He, at one point, did you follow the thread really of like what happened with Tequila? The fact that Lucas and Tequila were romantically linked in some way.
No.
I think there's a strong implication that they were. There's a scene where it is explicitly.
Then he chose Eleanor.
There's a scene where they explicitly say that he and Tequila would often be alone late into the night in parts of the casino, and but the song that Tequila sings that kills her is a song about her jealousy over him leaving her for Eleanor, and the song that she sings when you save her is a song about how much he loves Eleanor. That he commissioned from her. He commissioned from her, knowing how she feels about him.
That's a pretty dick move. That's not cool.
Like, burning everyone alive aside, this guy sucks.
Yeah.
He got the Moloch egg and then just kept it hidden away and fucking just couldn't help himself but tease Grayson about it. It was Grayson was the one who was he kept dropping him. Like, what an ass.
Yeah.
And he does bad things. He's a dick. And then he kills everyone he loves. And we're never given a piece of redeeming information about him.
Yep.
And it's not about do good men deserve, do bad men deserve. This guy is a resolute, possibly irredeemable piece of garbage. But is it okay for a man like that to suffer eternally?
Yeah.
Is a very different sort of moral question than we are usually asked by video games. And the game comes down pretty strongly on the side of no, it is not.
Yeah.
And I agree. I also agree. I don't think a lot of people won't. So I don't think that it's posing a difficult question. But just the fact that it's examining an idea that I think is more complex.
Yeah. I
really appreciate. And I said something. So you saw the get all the cards ending.
Yes.
You see the little you see the little fantasy of everybody dancing and being happy and thinking only of this moment and not considering the future at all. And then it just kind of ends.
Yeah. You
break the glass and it just stops. And I was like, wow. When it happened, I was surprised. I was like, really? It's not going to have like a little sinister twist at the end or something? Like, what a ridiculous thing to expect.
Yeah.
I'm not taking the blame on this one. What a ridiculous thing video game narrative has trained me to expect. Like, everything has to be written on the end of a hammer and then bashed against your face over and over again.
But yeah, we want more stuff like this.
This could be the game. Good. This could be my game of the year just because it told its story in kind of like a grown-up way.
Yeah.
Honestly.
We need more of that. It's sad that we don't get more of that. And maybe we need people to consume their media differently, more thoughtfully. So maybe it's our fault as an audience overall. I'm not going to say us, the two of us. We're perfect.
Specifically me.
Specifically.
It is my fault.
But I don't know. Maybe if we start raising the bar, everyone else is going to have to start looking at their media differently.
Yeah, just show appreciation for the things that are good. That's what we're doing.
Yep.
So, specific elements. What's up with the cards? What do you reckon? Do the cards have a larger representation? Is there something that they're supposed to be? Or is it just like, this is a video game and the collectibles, you know?
Oh, that's a good question.
Okay, I don't know. Let me give you a little push toward what I think.
Okay.
The fireplaces.
Mm-hmm.
When I say the fireplaces, is that significant to you?
Well, the fireplaces were, at certain points in the game, not, what would you say? You don't say running. Not aflame?
Lit.
Not lit. Yeah, there's the word I want. Not lit. And they had cards in them. Yeah. And then...
So the
you would
staff,
show up at a different time, and then they would be lit.
The staff have routines that they run.
Yeah.
And what do they do in those routines? They're not walking around dusting, right? They just go to the place where the murder is to be done and do the thing that is necessary for the murder.
Yeah.
And then they go to the hallway and they just stand there, the glass hall. Right? So it's not like they're running around doing irrelevant things. The stuff they're doing is plot relevant.
Yeah.
So it's got to be important that they take time out of their day to light the fireplaces.
That's true, then. Yep.
So maybe you missed it. There's a couple of pieces of information in the room where you cut the wires on the bomb that tell you that the bombs were in the fireplaces.
It was there. Yeah, I remember now. Okay.
So the fact that the fireplaces all have cards in them, and the staff goes around to light them on fire and making it so that you cannot retrieve the cards. That feels like it's got to be something, right?
Yeah. Interesting.
I don't have anything more than that. That's as far as I have on this.
Okay.
I mean, listen. If you guys in the audience out there have ideas, we didn't make this clear at the top of the recording, probably should have.
Yeah.
We don't have the answers. We are not trained professionals here. We're just having a conversation, and you guys are invited. Please, if you have thoughts about this stuff, leave it in the comments below. I'm really curious to see people's sort of extended deep takes on this game, because I think there's a lot of fascinating stuff going on here.
I also feel like I have a lot of surface level things that I have noted and don't have the answers to, which I was complaining about before we started, because I feel like if I had more time, but I know that there's a lot of stuff in this game that if I had, I would need so much time to totally dive into.
Yeah, and we're not doing a detailed explication here. This is just...
But I really wish I could.
This is just, let's talk about the thing. So, the cards in the fireplaces, the idea of the bombing plot as sort of an extension, or like being at least flavored by his gambling addiction. There's something there, but like, what does it mean that there are cards scattered just kind of all over the place? Like, the whole construction of the place is informed by his love of gambling to some extent, because it's a casino mansion, which is not even a thing as far as I'm aware. Right?
Well, we certainly wouldn't be invited to them if they do exist, so we wouldn't know.
Yeah, fair enough. I don't know. I feel like I feel like I have about 2/3 of a thing here. and that there's a piece that I'm not fully grasping, but I can't.
Well, here's a question. I don't know if this will help or make it worse, but what do you think about the bridge made of cards?
You know what I should have done is I should have gone back in the footage and checked which cards were in the fireplaces. I wonder if the bridge made of cards is made of the cards that are in the fireplaces. Did you? So I saw the card room in 2 states: no bridge and the bridge. Do you get partial?
Yeah.
Okay, it does.
So when I first walked in there, there was just like a few, and I could I didn't realize it was a bridge at that point.
Okay.
And then the next time I went in, there was like a few more cards, but it was still too far, and that's when I realized it was a bridge. So I saw it in a few different states. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I believe when I first went in there were no cards across.
So it builds out as you get the cards.
Okay. I wonder if it's the cards in the fireplaces.
Ooh. We're going to have to figure that out.
I did go and look. I stopped and checked out which cards it was, because I thought that might be relevant, which cards were building the bridge. And it's pretty weird. So the cards that make up the bridge across the card room are the 10 of hearts, the 1 of clubs.
Okay.
It's an ace, but it says 1, not A.
Interesting.
In the corners of the card. And then the H of hearts, the D of hearts, and the V of hearts. They're face cards.
Yeah.
But they say H, D, and V in the corners instead of king. I believe the H is a king, the D is the queen, and the V is the jack. No, the V is the queen, I think. My notes are not super clear. So I thought, they don't use the word. The king, queen, and jack are English words.
Yeah.
Maybe they use different letters in different languages. The words for, and it is the case. In German, king is K, queen is D, and jack is B. In French, I saw a French deck that had R, D, and V. Right, because I don't know how the French word for king is pronounced, but it's spelled R-O. Yeah. I was not able to find HDV. I was not able to find a language in which they are HD and V. But in French, there are D and V. That's pretty close. Yeah. So it could be a French-derived language. There's a lot of countries in the world that speak Romance languages. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, I'm curious about that.
Then I went and I looked at the artist credits. I watched the credits. I was curious. Maybe it's like an artist whose name starts with H. Yeah. Recast himself as the king and also is French, so it's D and V on the other cards. That didn't seem to be the case. There were no prominent H's. I don't know. I don't know why it's that, but
interesting.
Yeah, it's weird. And you can see multiple copies, the stacks that make, the weird stacks in the room. There's a bunch of copies of the V of hearts sticking out of the stacks at various angles. 2 copies of the H of diamonds make up the floor at the entrance. The door is set on top of a pair of H of diamonds. Don't know. I don't know what it means.
And the card you get is the Ace of Hearts, right?
Yeah, it's an ace. I don't remember which one.
Of hearts.
Okay.
I remember it was hearts.
Okay.
So, yeah, Ace of Hearts. I don't know.
Yeah, there's some cool symbology happening here that neither of us has 100% grasped, I think.
Yeah. You got something else you want to bring up?
Yeah, I during the actual playing of the game, it's a little clearer to me now, but during the actual playing of the game, I was having a real hard time figuring out what was real. So you spend the whole game in Lucas's recreation of the Sexy Brutale, and you know that it's not a faithful recreation because of the fact that the Room of Old Habits physically cannot exist, and there's a bunch of things that make it pretty obvious.
And probably the statues. I assume they weren't all crying and weeping all over the place.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That is not going to make people want to gamble. Yeah. So, I'm still not 100% clear on which elements did happen in the real world. Like the songs, for example. Tequila's songs. Yeah. The song she sings that kills her, she refers to it as a secret song. Did she say secret? She private.
Private.
She says it's a private song. When the guy starts playing it, she is shocked that he has the music. Yeah. So Lucas wouldn't know it either, right? If it's a song about how she's jealous of Eleanor, it's a song about how she's mad at Lucas. she would not have sung that to him, right?
I doubt it. I can't imagine that.
So that song is probably something he invented. His fictional characterization of Tequila and the fictional song he made up.
I mean, who knows if she actually even cared for him? Maybe this is all...
I think we can...
But how much?
Yeah.
You know.
So yeah, some of it's muddied a little bit by the fact that all we know are Lucas's perceptions, or at this point, his memories of his perceptions.
Yeah.
Because we don't know exactly how long after the events of the casino destruction the game takes place, but it's decades at least.
Yeah, I mean, the King in Red is pretty old.
Yeah. And we know he went to prison. It says that explicitly in one of the cards. And he served, and then he was released. Mm-hmm. I don't know how long you get for murdering, a dozen of the world's most famous people in a fire that I assume he admitted to. Right? Like, given all the elements here.
I mean, when they find, if they did find bits of, like, dynamite or whatever, whatever he used to set everything off, you couldn't be like, well, it was an accident, who knows what happened. I mean...
Yeah, his initial plan was to claim that it was an accident, but I think that I have to imagine, given the level of guilt.
Oh, yeah,
and the fact that he, despite being as rich as he is, or was, went to prison, which is kind of not usually how it goes.
Yeah.
One assumes that he had to have admitted to the crime.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he wasn't actually rich by the time he would have been on trial, so...
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about, why can't I say I forgot his name. Lafcadio. Do you think was a real person?
Yeah. I expressed some concern about that to you, that I was not 100% sure if Lafcadio was a character that Lucas had invented for the fantasy or not, but I went back and I reread the brochure entries, and I think Lafcadio is real.
So, I also thought he was real when I read the brochure entries, but now I'm not sure.
Okay.
So, when I was trying to get ready for recording this, I spent some time... probably too much time, like, looking through all the bookshelves and anything that had, like, a title, a painting or anything like that. And I looked up the name Lafcadio because it seems like a very strange name.
Yeah, it's strange in a way that obviously is meant to be strange.
Yeah. And I was led to a man named Lafcadio Hearn.
Right.
Yep. And he was a man who... I'm trying to remember what he did in the beginning, but I believe he was a journalist.
Okay.
He was born in Greece and came to the U.S. And ended up going to Japan because he worked for Harper's, and ended up staying in Japan and marrying a woman who was like high up in samurai society. And he ended up becoming like a citizen basically of Japan. This is like late 1800s, early 1900s. And he wrote a whole bunch... I
assume that kind of thing was very unusual then?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
And he actually took her name. What was... it probably doesn't actually matter, but I think her name was Koizumi? I have it written down, but my notes are over there. So, which is also very strange, I think. But, she was high up in society, like samurai society, which I'm sure is strict. But I noticed stuff about this guy on the internet, right? And then I saw there was evidence of his works in the mansion. So he wrote some...
Yeah, there's like a book of Japanese ghost stories or something.
He wrote books about these kinds of stories. And there is specifically, and I'm going to need your help with some of this, there was somewhere a mention of a story of Hoichi the Earless, which is one of the stories he wrote. I don't know if I think these were folktales that he wrote down to introduce to Western culture. I don't think he made them up, but and there's also one that is about, what was it called? The story of Aoyagi. And there's a painting in one of the rooms, the room where the stories are. There's like a kind of a Japanese art room, and Japanese stories are in there.
This is the room
it's in the
library area?
It's in the basement, actually. And there's a painting on the wall, a big painting. It's kind of like an old Japanese style, and the title of it is The Story of Aoyagi. And the story of Aoyagi is a story that was written by Lafcadio Hearn, and it's about I kind of just read a brief summary, but the wife, there's a wife and a husband, they get married, and about 5 years later, the wife all of a sudden has this sharp pain, and she says she's going to die, and the husband's like, that's silly, what, you're just not feeling well, and she basically admits that, she says something like, my soul is the soul of a tree, so she's a tree, basically, my heart is the heart of a tree, and my blood is the sap of a willow.
Well, that seems wrong.
Yeah.
I think she's confused.
Yeah, and then she dies, so maybe she's not confused. But what I also think is interesting, and this is what I need your help with.
I guess if your heart was the heart of a tree, you probably would not survive very long.
Yeah, well, folk tales or stories like that. Aoyagi. So, in Japan, blue and green kind of overlap, right? Like, a green light is a blue light. So the word owl sometimes is blue and sometimes is green.
You're saying they use the same words?
Yeah. Yeah. The owl part means blue. So aoi is blue.
Okay.
And so the owl part means blue or green. And yagi means willow.
Okay.
And there's somebody in the game whose name is Blue Willow. That's interesting.
That is interesting.
But why? And there also is basically a living tree.
Yeah.
A couple weird trees actually in there.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I have a lot more questions now. I never really got to any answers.
That's interesting. Yeah, I did not pick up that willow blue thing at all.
Well, it helps that I know some Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I saw it was aoyagi, and I didn't know what willow was, but I saw owl, and I was like, I wonder.
Yeah, that's wow. I don't know what to make of that.
Yeah, that's why
you caught me flat-footed here.
There are some things that I've discovered through rifling through the books in the libraries and the other rooms that are very interesting.
I mean, it could be... It's hard to know if that's supposed to be a thing that we're meant to recognize, or if that's just... it's obviously a reference, but I wonder if it's meant to be an in-world reference, or if it's just that, like, the guy who wrote this really liked Lafcadio Hearn's books or something,
And maybe it's hard to know unless you follow the path.
Yeah, this is something that I think bears a lot of further investigation.
Yeah. I have some stuff. I think I'm going to save some of the other stuff I found, but I do want to mention one more thing if you don't mind. So there are some books. There is two books about, what was his name? Charles Joseph Carter.
Okay.
Who was a magician in the 1800s. And there's one book that was like his personal journal. It's on display. And then there's a first edition of a book called Carter the Great. Yeah. Which is a real book.
Okay.
Right. And it's actually, it says in the story, it says it's a biography of this man, and it's called Carter the Great. The thing is it is a real book, but it's not an actual biography. It's a fictional story where he basically chops up the president and during a magic trick, and the president's actually dead, but it's got real people in it. And it's focused around this real man, but it's a totally made-up story. Okay,
well, there's some obvious thematic parallels.
Yeah,
there.
Yeah, but I just thought that was kind of interesting.
That is
worth mentioning. The fact that, and it says in the story, it says it's his biography, or a biography of this man, when really it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah, just thought I'd bring that up.
You got me looking real silly here. You have all of this very interesting stuff, and look at my notes. I'm like, hey, the ghosts are perverts. What's up with that? Why are so many?
They are actually.
Why are so many of the ghosts perverts?
I love the one in the library. He's like,
and then
so pissed off because there's no dirty books for him to go through.
Yeah, and the one in the guest hallway is mad because he went through Willow's boudoir and he didn't find any sexy stuff. All he found was that weird charm.
It's pretty good. No, that's fine. No, we focused on different things, and I think that you have a better idea of like kind of the themes, like the macro themes. I just have a bunch of questions because I basically rifled through everybody's stuff in the game. Yeah. And just don't know how to put any of it together. Yeah. So, I don't know. What is up with them being perverts?
It's weird, right? There probably weren't actually ghosts. We don't have any element, or we don't have any
That's a good point.
evidence that there's any actual occult stuff in the real world of the game.
Yeah. And except there's real world books and things.
Except that Willow Blue exists as a person.
Yeah.
So maybe there's something to it. But like there's a passage somewhere that's pretty explicit about the fact that the Juju Guppy was not actually, like, the whole Grinmaw thing was not real.
Yeah.
That is something that was invented for Lucas's fantasy of the casino mansion. So until somebody can point to some evidence otherwise, I'm going to assume that there wasn't any occult stuff in the true version of events, which means that there probably weren't any ghosts.
Yeah.
Which means that the fact that there are ghosts in the fantasy version is meaningful in some way. He's not remembering the ghosts from reality. He has inserted ghosts.
Yeah.
And there's some weird stuff about the ghosts, right? So you didn't get a lot of the invitations. So you maybe don't know. At one point, one of the ghosts pickpockets Aurum. The way you get Aurum's invitation is by interacting with one of the ghosts in the back room of the bar after Aurum has done his business there and left. He offers to trade you the invitation that he stole.
Yeah. If
you can bring him something gross, basically. I don't remember if he says something morbid or just something icky.
Yeah.
But what I did was I went back and got the charm, and I fed the charm, and that was good enough for him. So I don't know what it means that, like, the ghosts have physical interactions, right? They're able to physically bar you from places. We don't know for sure that the ghost would be unable to physically bar the guests, because the ghost at the door of the bar steps aside to let Aurum through.
Yeah. Well,
so what's the deal with that? What's up with the ghosts? What's up with these perverted ghosts? I don't know. I don't have anything. I assume that them being kind of perverted is a reflection of Lucas's own personality, since the whole place is kind of a reflection of Lucas's personality. Maybe he's just kind of a perv.
But then why are they ghosts?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either.
There's obviously some ghosts of the past. There's some obvious thematic stuff with him, like filling the mansion with literal representations of the dead, and then also thematic representations of the dead. There are 2 models. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's not like they're specific people.
I was looking real closely at them. It kind of looks like the common model. There's one model that is used for almost all of the ghosts, and then there's a second model that only appears like 2 times. But in that back room of the bar, you can see him.
Yeah.
The common model either has a very strange-looking necktie or a noose around its neck. Which is weird.
Yeah.
The ghosts don't represent anybody real, so I don't know, like... I don't know. I don't have anything on this.
I didn't really look that closely at them, so...
Hey, listeners, help.
Help us, please. We're lost.
Other stuff that I do want to talk about... The lyrics to the songs are interesting, but it's hard to know what to make of them without knowing whether these were songs that the actual Tequila Bell ever wrote or sang, or if they're just completely Lucas's inventions. Oh, hey, Gold Skull. Let's talk about Gold Skull.
Okay.
I have some things to say about this. You probably out-researched me on this a bunch, too, I bet, because this is a...
I found some
stuff.
Some difficulty in figuring this guy out,
So, in the brochure, after you beat the game, you're given his name.
Yep. He
goes by Deuteronomy Bound, which is maybe the least subtle thing in the entire game.
Yeah. So
there's a scene where a man hurls himself out of a burning representation of his gambling addiction, and I still think that is less subtle than Deuteronomy Bound.
What? Don't you know anyone with that name?
So Deuteronomy comes from there's a book of the Bible
that
is named Deuteronomy, a book of the Torah as well. Hey, let me ask you this. This is maybe something I could have done a little bit of research on, given that I, live in America, where Abrahamic religion is kind of the thing.
You're going to ask me a religious question?
The Torah and the Old Testament, are they the same, basically?
Or
is there a significant difference between the Torah and the Christian Old Testament?
Difference, but I could be wrong, and I'm sorry if I am wrong, but I thought that they were pretty much the same. Now, it may be written a little differently, but...
Okay, so neither of us are biblical scholars.
Yeah, sorry about that.
We were both raised by Christian families, but not, like, super practicing Christians.
Yeah.
My mom is kind of like a deist.
A deist,
sort of,
yeah.
as far as it goes. She believes that there is probably a God, so...
Yeah. And I was raised Catholic, and I only learned the Catholic side of things, so I don't really know, unfortunately.
Okay. So there's a book in the Bible called Deuteronomy. The name Deuteronomy comes from a Greek phrase, which is translated as second law, but the Greek phrase that the title comes from is actually only exists due to a mistranslation in the first place. So I think that's interesting. Like, the history of the Bible, to a certain extent, is a history of mistranslations, sometimes unintentional, often intentional.
Yeah.
And so it's interesting that the character is named after a book of the Bible that has a name that is kind of nonsense, a name that is based on a misunderstanding. Basically, I think there's something there in that the way that Gold Skull applies the ideas of Christianity, probably slightly misunderstanding them.
Yeah.
It's Christianity, right? Lafcadio's a Christian priest, not...
Well, he has a cross, so I assume so.
Okay. I just realized, as we're sitting here talking about this book that is present in both the Old Testament and, like, it's theoretically possible that we're talking about Jewish law, not Christian law.
Yeah,
but,
but he wouldn't have a
you're
cross.
Right, you're right.
Also, he's kind of like an old school priest. Like, the vestments he's wearing are... You wouldn't see those nowadays so much, so it's interesting.
Yeah, so the book, I tried to do a little bit of research on this. I am not a biblical scholar, so I did not get very far. There's a lot of reading to do. But my impression of the book, and this is reinforced by commenter Clockwork Minion, thank you for chiming in, is that it's basically a book about setting out a large portion of Jewish law. It's a book of laws and consequences for breaking those laws. And so that, I mean, it's a book about judgment and punishment in a lot of ways. So that makes sense given Gold Skull's role. Do you think there's anything else here?
I think there is, but I didn't find it.
Okay.
I'm sorry to say.
That's fair.
But it is worth noting also is there are other biblical references.
Sure, yeah, there's a I should have looked this up. There's a place where there's explicitly a Bible passage referenced.
I got it.
In the library, you got it? Okay, good. Thank you for doing the work.
Though your sins are like scarlet, they shall be white as snow, which is Isaiah 1:18.
And somebody, when I encountered that, I was like, ooh, I should look that up, and I didn't. And somebody commented with the text, and I apologize for not having looked up your name before we started the recording.
Oh, well, I'm also sorry, I guess. I wasn't involved, but... So there's two other ones I found actually as well, but they weren't spelled out in the game, right?
I just realized something.
What? You gave me a look and I didn't know what was happening.
There's a book in the Bible called Kings, isn't there?
Yeah. Oh. Oops. Well, we got more stuff to look into, I guess.
Right, that has to be relevant with all the cards and...
Probably.
Yeah.
Because I haven't totally found answers with some of the other Bible passages.
Okay, so yeah, sorry to interrupt. Keep up.
But I do have questions about this one, although so I read a little bit further in the Bible, right? And from what I got was, your sins are like scarlet, you have these sins, but if you come to the Lord, if you come to God, then your sins will be wiped clean. And this book, so this book is open, the Bible is open, and this passage is showing, and it says that there's like claw marks. The page has been clawed at in the game.
Wow, that feels like a thing that I should have noticed.
Yeah, so... And it's only this passage, right, that's showing. So it's saying, although your sins are scarlet, they will be made as snow, shall be made as snow. But it doesn't say how, which I think is interesting. I think that might have something to do with it. It doesn't say how these sins are... What's the word I'm looking for?
Absolved?
Absolved. That's a good word. It doesn't say how. So I'm wondering if that's kind of... He came up with his own form of absolution.
My impression of the Bible, and apologies, I do not say anything intending to offend here, but my impression of the Bible is that it's pretty light on how. Sort of like as a book. The whole thing is
I
whole
don't
thing
know.
is like trust and God will take care of it.
Yeah.
Right? Like.
And Lafcadio is a priest in this game, right? So
Yes. Lafcadio is specifically a person who in his youth was a gambler and then owned a casino and then gave it all up to become a priest.
yeah.
And so I can see how you might think that sounds a little too coincidental to be real. That's where I first thought that Lafcadio might not be real.
But also, this man has things written by Lafcadio Hearn and paintings based on his stories in his mansion.
Yeah. Yeah, listen, if you want to argue that there was never a Lafcadio boon and that he was completely invented for the purpose of this fantasy, I'm going
to stick to that.
Yeah, I totally see that.
Yeah.
I do not feel comfortable guessing one way or the other at this point.
I mean, of course, I don't know for sure. That's where I'm leaning right now. Yeah. What else you got?
I got masks. Everybody's got masks.
Oh, boy.
So I have some questions about the staff, first of all. When you first encounter the staff, it's just kind of like cool that the guy's like a card suit.
Yeah.
They all refer to each other. You know, the first one, the one that shoots sixpence, refers to another one by name. He's like, 7 clubs, better get down here and help me move this body. And that's just like, oh, it's cool, they're casino workers. As you get more into the nature of the thing, and you come to know that probably this is not what the casino staff was like. And by the way, can we take a detour here?
Breathe a little.
The staff.
Yeah.
What about the staff in the real world?
I mean, yeah, there is really no mention of them dying. There don't seem to be any graves for them in the graveyard.
Yeah. So, like, that could mean that Lucas was responsible and sent everybody home so that they wouldn't be present for the thing. That totally might have happened. But it also could mean that he kind of just doesn't really view them as people in the same way that...
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. There's not a ton of stuff about class in this game.
Mm-hmm.
Which I think is a little bit strange given that some of the people, like Willow comes from... Willow's pretty poor before she knows Lucas, isn't she? I think she married into a family or something. I don't know. So there's no stuff about class in this game. My guess is that they were not attempting to make any statement about the staff or anything. But I just think it's odd that it's never mentioned in the plan what might become of the staff or whether they've been sent home or whatever.
The only thing I can think of that might be related to class off the top of my head is the fact that they have those bells and the servant quarters, like their kitchen, everything is in the basement.
Yeah.
And everybody else is up high. And they have the bells. That's the only thing I could think of right now.
To a certain extent, you can't have servants without getting into some of this stuff, right? Yeah. Like, they just can't exist. And if you're just going to copy real-world architecture and stuff, people were almost intentionally rubbing it in their servants' faces with every little detail of their existence, that they would never be more than what they were. And so, yeah, like I don't know that there's anything here. I just thought it's worth mentioning. Mm. So the staff in the fantasy version of the casino, though, with the cards on their heads, I thought that was weird. So we went and looked to see what cards they were. It turns out there's 9 of them. Yep. Which is a weird number. My assumption had been that they would turn out to be poker hands. 9 is not the number. 9 is not a number that is evenly divisible by poker hands. Yeah. But they do kind of seem like they're poker hands. Like there's an ace 2 3 4 5. There's a straight, and then there's a pair of 9s and a 7 and a king. And if you think of the red king as a red king, then that's a full house with the cards that are left over.
That's a good point.
9s, kings, and a 7. I don't know if that's a famous hand. There are certain poker hands that are famous due to their historical significance, like the Dead Man's Hand. In the very, very little bit of searching I did about it, 9s and kings with a 7 I did not find to be a significant one, but maybe it is. But also, now that I've remembered that there's a Bible book called Kings, I kind of wonder if maybe Kings 9-7 or Kings 7-9 is something.
Ooh, Oh, I'm so excited. I want to do so much research. Oh, this is great.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think there's more stuff here.
There's probably more stuff here. So we talked about this when we were doing podcasts, but I guess it bears repeating here. A lot of people who are not familiar with sort of deep analysis, I've had this said to me on a number of occasions.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're overthinking it. You're just seeing things that aren't there. But, like, you got to remember, these people worked on this game for years.
Yeah.
They had so much time to think about everything.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing in a game just falls out of the sky. There can be things that are accidental.
Yeah.
In a film, perhaps. Like, there have to be chairs in a scene, and you get some chairs.
Yeah.
And the chairs might have significance that you weren't aware of.
Yeah.
But because you build everything in a video game, everything is a choice that someone made.
Yep.
That's also true in film. But in video game, it's even more so, because there are no found objects in a video game.
Mm-hmm. Everything was decided by someone. Everything was written by someone. Everything was built by someone.
And they had to choose what to build and what to write somehow.
Yeah.
So it has some significance. That's just a little bit of preemptive self-defense.
Okay. And if we are looking too much into it, well, we're having fun, so whatever.
There is a 10th staff member.
There is.
The guy in the clean room. On the table.
Oh, there is.
I have written in my notes that he's a spade, but that I couldn't see. So they have the value. The suit is on the front of the helmet.
Yeah.
The value is on one of the sides, and it's not always the same side. But the one on the table, I think his value is on the side away from the camera.
Mm.
So I don't know. Maybe he completes the hand.
That's interesting.
What would it mean if they're poker hands? What would it mean if they're not poker hands?
I don't know.
Maybe they're actually supposed to be blackjack deals. Lucas seems to be very into blackjack.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Who knows?
Speaking of blackjack, the robo-dealer. There's a room in the basement where there's a malfunctioning robo-dealer, and he says a whole bunch of stuff. Most of it is poop and fart jokes. Which is fine. But there's a couple of things that are cryptic that I was not able to ever find a meaning for. Such as, at one point he says, return to the empty tank with new eyes.
Yep.
So my first thought was, one of the aquariums... Aquaria? What's the plural of aquarium?
Aquariums.
Okay.
In English.
He goes back to the I went back to the aquariums, then none of them are empty. The empty tank could refer to the Red King's tank after you have released yourself to some degree.
But we don't know
torment.
how to get in there.
Theoretically, it would be empty. But yeah, as far as I know, you can't go back in that room. So I don't know. Maybe it means nothing.
I doubt it, though.
The other major mechanical element of the game that I have questions about is in that room as well. There's a vent that leads from the malfunctioning robot room up to the casino.
Yep.
It doesn't seem to have any purpose. At first I thought maybe if you use Willow's, or not Willow, the moth lady. If you use the listening power at the top of that vent, maybe you could hear the robot down in the basement, which would be, like, given how early you could do that, that would be some interesting, cool, creepy stuff to overhear through a ventilation duct. But I don't think you can. I tried. I didn't hear anything the robot was saying. So I don't know what the deal with that vent is. It's very conspicuous and seems to have no purpose, meaning, or value whatsoever.
It's really conspicuous, though.
It's really conspicuous.
I had
very
the same...
strange.
I kept trying to find something there, and I didn't. But yeah, it's got to be there for a reason. Other than maybe it's trying to hint to you early that there's a basement, but I don't know. That doesn't seem like enough to me.
No, and I would have assumed there's a basement.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So I think that's it. I think that's what we have for today.
I have one more thing, but
yes.
I'm saving it.
For what?
I'm going to look into it more. Just saying.
Why even tell us that you have it? Now we're all sitting here.
I'm just going to say, I didn't want people to think that I missed something important.
Now we're all sitting here dying of suspense.
There is a connection, I'm just going to say, between the works of Robert Chambers and the Red King.
Yeah.
And I'm going to look into it, and I'm going to do something on it. Because it's very interesting.
You're gonna do something. You're not gonna just leave us hanging forever.
Nope.
Okay.
I'm very curious about this, but I need to do more research, and I didn't want anyone to be like, oh, "You missed a thing," which I'm sure we missed a ton of things. But
please, if you think we missed a thing,
we did.
Disregard her. If you think we missed a thing, please do comment about it.
But I didn't miss this thing. But I could use help on it if anyone has any ideas.
Weird. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for listening. There's so much stuff going on in the narrative and symbolism of this game. Please do, if you have anything, any questions, comments, even not about the game, just about things we said.
Yeah.
This is a conversation. I would like to continue the conversation in the comments below.
Yes, please.
So thank you very much for listening.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye-bye.